Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar this morning on what's included with Microsoft 365. This is going to be an interesting session because there's always a lot of questions about what in the world do we mean when we talk about the Microsoft 365 products suite. Now, if you're live with us this morning, feel free to type in any questions into the Q&A box, and we'll get to those as we come to the end. If you are watching this on YouTube or something later, drop us an email. We'd be glad to help you and work with you on the whole thing. But let's start out. What's included with Microsoft 365? And indeed, what is that product suite as we talk about it? Well, let's begin by asking the question, what is Microsoft 365? The problem that a lot of people run into is that when we think of Microsoft 365, we only think of the Office products. And if we only think of the Office products, we're missing a whole bunch of the value that's involved within it. Microsoft itself defines Microsoft 365 as a cloud-powered productivity platform. So that means that we're using stuff beyond just what's on your base PC itself and using resources that cannot be on your PC but are tied into cloud resources in order to allow us to enhance productivity. And I'll admit, I'm really sold on the Microsoft 365 suite. There's an awful lot of value there for the money. As we move on through this, one thing about the Microsoft 365 suite is that it includes the latest productivity apps. So whereas before you might purchase a Office DVD or CD or download or whatever, and it was good with that version of Office, this lets you have the latest versions of everything as they change, and indeed all updates automatically roll out and all that stuff takes place. But beyond just having just the latest versions of the productivity apps, the 365 suite is interesting because it allows us to install this on everything from PCs and Macs to tablets and phones. Now, I realize that the details may change between now and when you're watching this, but as of this point, the 365 suite can be installed on up to 5 of your devices. So if you've got multiple PCs like I do, tablet, phone, you can install this on all your devices, let everything work together, let all the data flow back and forth between devices, and it all works out just great. In addition, the Microsoft 365 suite has the ability to add in AI-powered features to enhance productivity. So what I've done before is as we've demoed this before to other people, if we've got Microsoft Copilot enabled, we may ask in PowerPoint, ask for it to create us a presentation on whatever the topic is. And while that won't be our final presentation, it's a good starter package. It has a lot of good starter information for you to use as you're working through and getting ready to build your presentation. I find that AI does not give me all the details I need for my work, but it often provides a good foundation to start from and to add in more detail. What's also unique about the Microsoft 365 suite is that it does include cloud storage. So you recall when you used to buy Office as a standalone, you may or may not have had cloud storage involved in it. Many of us did not. One of the things that the 365 suite does for us is that it includes cloud storage. It includes cloud storage in 2 different forms, one of them being OneDrive, which you are probably familiar with, and the second being in SharePoint. And that's a pretty big deal that it includes SharePoint as part of the package. What is perhaps the most confusing part about Microsoft 365 is that it comes in a whole slew of different editions. So you've got like Business Standard, Office E3, Business Premium, Office E5, and all sorts of others in between. And so it can become confusing to know which version of Microsoft 365 you want. For our purposes today, we're going to focus on Microsoft 365 Business Premium. And we're focusing on this one because this has shown to be a very good balance of productivity, security features, and cost to give you, honestly, a huge bang for your buck as you get into this. When we talk about Microsoft 365 Business Premium, we're talking about a package that includes these items that you see on the screen right now. The desktop apps are probably the piece that many of us are the most familiar with. And so we're used to using Word, Excel, PowerPoint, those kinds of things. And as we talk about the desktop apps and what's involved in those are often very much what we think of when we think of the Microsoft 365 suite. But the second component, the web apps and the services, adds a huge amount of value that you would not get with a standalone Office install. We'll talk about what some of those values are. And then probably what is the most underused, from my perspective, featured in Business Premium that many don't understand are some of the features involved in the various admin consoles. You can do a lot through this package to protect your data, to help be on the lookout for different issues that go on. And we'll come through and just highlight some of the key things about this. Now, note that the Microsoft 365 packages are constantly being updated. And so it is possible that as you go look at these later on, you may find some differences from what we talk about this morning, and that's okay. All right, because they are constantly being updated and constantly being changed. Okay, so let's start out. Look at these top three things: desktop apps, web apps and services, and admin consoles, and talk about what this means from the Microsoft 365 Business Premium ecosystem. Desktop apps are probably the most familiar to each one of us. They would include things like Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Outlook, and if you've got a PC, it includes Access as well as Publisher. And it's interesting that those are PC-only apps. Interesting thing to keep in mind is that if you've got certain variations of the Business Premium package, they have Teams. So there is a Business Premium package that comes with Teams, and then there's a Business Premium package that does not include Teams. Obviously, the one that does not include Teams is going to be a little bit cheaper, but to tell you the truth, Teams has become such an integral part of our productivity. I would hate to buy a package without that. It is really an important piece for us to have. Then besides these basic desktop apps that we're all used to seeing as part of our Office 365 environment, here's where some of the fun starts. Because the Microsoft 365 Business Premium package has a whole bunch of different web apps and services. Now, the list that we're going to begin talking through is not complete. There are more than just what is here, but I picked out a few of them that would be top. So you buy Business Premium, and one of the things that comes with it is the web version of Visio. Microsoft Visio is a tremendous graphing tool that lets you do flow charting, lets you create diagrams, does a whole lot of things, mind maps, flow charts of processes, anything that you would want to do in that mode. And so if you've got the need to identify certain things as far as processes and the way that you need to do things, Visio will do that, and Business Premium has it built in. Another one that people are often surprised to see is that Microsoft 365 Premium includes the Bookings app. If you've ever used something like Calendly or had somebody that said, some email that said, click a link here in order to schedule a meeting with me, you've used a calendaring app. Bookings does that, and Bookings ties in with your Outlook calendar and lets you specify when you want to have time available so people can go ahead and schedule things with you. That way you don't have to do this back and forth about when do we want to meet, but you can already go ahead and schedule that and get it done. And that's pretty slick. We're just starting to roll that out more within our offices here on that. Another tool that's built within the web app sections of Microsoft Business Premium would be something called Microsoft Lists. If you are like me and you make lots of lists for various purposes, this is going to be pretty helpful to you. And then you can take these lists and you can share them with other people in your organizations. You can assign out different elements on this list, and those turn out to be an asset for you. As you're doing that with lists, you also have the ability to bring in something called Microsoft Loop. Now, Microsoft Loop is a new product from Microsoft, but is included with the Business Premium package. So Loop is defined as a collaboration tool. It allows you to create, for example, let's say that you want to brainstorm across your organization about how to solve some particular problem. And so you might create a Loop workspace about this particular problem, assign out the different people who are involved, and as you're all going about your business in various locations, you can collaborate to come up with the solution or the role that you want to have for this particular problem. We have not used Loop at all yet within our office, but it looks like an interesting tool to think about. Another one of the web apps that's included within the Business Premium package is this tool called Clipchamp. Excuse me, couldn't hardly pronounce that. Clipchamp is a relatively new addition to the web apps and services side of Microsoft Business Premium, and it's designed to be a simplified video editor. So if you've got a reason to create videos like we're doing here this morning, and you want to go ahead and edit some stuff into it, it's got features to go ahead and let you do that and create the videos the way you want. That's good. An old standby that we are all familiar with in the Microsoft world would be Exchange, as that's our primary email product. But we often forget that email Exchange, besides just being email, often controls your calendaring, your contacts, and then lets you decide how you handle stuff. And then on the back end of Exchange, you can also create all sorts of rules to make mail flow in different ways. So you can design basically your whole communication system with regards to email within Exchange. It is more than just simply getting email to Outlook and answering it right there. SharePoint is included with Microsoft Exchange, and as of this point, it includes 1 terabyte of storage for your base SharePoint. And then if you've got like 10 different business premium licenses, there's an additional amount for each additional license that's added on. So SharePoint lets you create either your document format, document storage location, if you want to do it that way, or you create some kind of an internal or some kind of a work group area where you might invite external people to, as you can compile and organize information here. It's not designed to be your website for your organization. Rather, it's designed to be a place that helps you share and bring data together. Interestingly enough, a lot of these web apps that you see within the list and more that we're going to talk about, they're tremendous, and they actually use things like SharePoint and Exchange in the back ends as they make things work together. A couple of other newer additions to the web app system, 2 products called Microsoft Planner and then Microsoft To Do. Well, you're probably the most familiar with to-do lists that you can make lists and check them off on, and that's all good. And Microsoft To Do has been around a long time. It's got both regular, it's built into Outlook. You've got mobile versions to use on your phone, and all that's good. The newer version of that is called Microsoft Planner. And so if you have the idea that you want to create like Kanban charts or something like that, Planner will let you do that and let you go ahead and consolidate these and then assign things out and track the status of what's done. And then there are actually more items within the web apps and services lists than what we would have talked about here. The point being that many times we go out and buy these additional third-party products, and it's great if you want to do it. But you may very well find that what's built into the Business Premium package already will accomplish what you want to do. And so I'm big on why spend money if we don't have to. And like I said, the Business Premium package is at a great price point. It's got a very good set of security features built into it. and it provides an extreme amount of value just for the money. Well, we've talked about how Business Premium has three major components if we were to organize the items. The desktop apps, the web apps and services, which we've just talked about, and then the third piece of the Microsoft Business Premium ecosystem would be what I'm going to call admin services. These don't get the love and the attention that they should, because you might think of them more like back-end stuff. And yet, as we look at this back-end stuff, it provides a huge amount of value for what you want to do. So let's just go down and talk through a little bit what we've got with admin services. One of the first things that I value in the Business Premium package is the fact that we've got advanced threat protection built into it. Now, the advanced threat protection comes in a number of different ways, but one of the ways that it comes is through Microsoft Defender, Defender for Endpoint that comes as part of Business Premium. Two things that means. Number one, you don't need to go buy an additional antivirus, okay? And you do need a good antivirus and endpoint detection response. You've got that with the Business Premium package. But even more importantly, from my perspective, you've got this all tied in to the back-end Microsoft ecosystem. So if you find that you're receiving some kind of malware that comes in consistently, or you find that you've got a user's machine that got infected and you need to know how to handle that and remediate it, the admin consoles on the back end with the advanced threat protection let you go through and do remote remediation on devices, let you manage what's going on, even let you do things like limit what URLs an endpoint might be able to go to. So if you're on a largely remote environment and you've got people all over, it used to be that we did all of our limiting of what URLs a person could go to on the firewall. That, unfortunately, if we're running in a remote environment, everybody's not behind that firewall, so we've got to do it differently. And the advanced threat protection services within Microsoft Business Premium let us do that and let us have good control over what kinds of things these endpoints or organizations can access. That is really crucial for limiting things like ransomware and malware and other such things. Next one is one that I'm pretty excited about trying. We have just barely tried it out as a really interesting product. But the next one is Cloud Apps Discovery. Okay, why is that important? Well, have you ever had a case where somebody in your organization, they wanted to do something other than what IT was allowing, or somebody said, I'll just go buy this cloud service on the internet and then we'll go there, and suddenly you've lost control of your data and you've got data in places where you don't know where it is, much less if that individual leaves, you don't know how to get it back. We actually had a client at one point in time that had an employee that was using cloud services and took a whole slew of information, stored it in these cloud services, and it ended up costing the business a good solid year's worth of work to recover that stuff because they didn't have access to it once it was placed in its private cloud services. Cloud Apps Discovery within the Microsoft 365 Business Premium ecosystem lets you find out from all of your different endpoints that your staff, that your employees are using, what cloud services they are using. And then it lets you make the decision, is that an appropriate cloud service or somebody doing that when they shouldn't be, or on the side and sticking information up there that the rest of us don't have access to. Guys, I can't emphasize that enough. This is really hugely important, what you're seeing right here. And so the Cloud Apps Discovery lets us find out what's being done, and then lets us put a limit on what cloud SaaS applications can be used and whether or not our employees or our users can use that. That is a really, really big deal. If you want to talk more about this, drop us a note, call us. We'll have our phone number coming up. Would be glad to help you learn more about how to use that. The next one we all hate to think about, but the next one is called e-discovery. E-discovery has to do with litigation. And while None of us want to be involved in lawsuits. The fact of our world is that many times there are lawsuits that go on. And so with Microsoft Business Premium, you have the ability to take your um, digital assets, you can place them under litigation hold or data loss protection, various things that you can do. And the point of litigation hold is that that lets you prove to the courts, for example, let's say an email, say your email's under litigation hold. That lets you prove that this email has not been altered or has not been changed, that the chain of custody says that this is the original email within the original format. Likewise, if you're involved in litigation, it's totally common that you will get some kind of a request from the opposing counsel for e-discovery within your environment for what documents, what emails, whatever you have pertaining to whatever the litigation is on. And so Microsoft Business Premium has built into it litigation hold and e-discovery features, things to make handling the legal bases and contracts better. Now, if you go up to some of the advanced packages like Microsoft 365 E5, the features there are definitely a more of a premium version of e-discovery and litigation hold. But for most people, what is here within Business Premium is a very good package and will handle the majority of things that you need and do a good job. We've used it before. We've had to do e-discovery for clients on several occasions on there. And so that is a huge thing to know. Related to e-discovery and related to this is the whole concept of data lifecycle management. Now, data lifecycle management simply means that your data should have a life cycle, that it's created, that you manage it, and that you maintain it. And then there comes some point when that data needs to be destroyed or deleted or removed. There's several reasons for that, but one of them with regards to e-discovery is that if you're keeping data well past the time that you should, it can actually change from being an asset to becoming a liability in the event of litigation. But the other thing data lifecycle management does is that if you are a regulated entity of some kind, whether it be some kind of governmental or you're under some kind of special regulations of one kind or another, you may have certain regulations that require how long certain data is kept and what is done with that particular data. So data lifecycle management lets you do that. It also lets you establish taggings and policies on your data so that you say if the data is of this kind, we keep it for this many years, and if the data is of this kind, we may only keep it for this many years. Data lifecycle management is a really big deal and a very big important thing to do. But also back within the admin consoles, we also have another couple of other features. Another big feature, security alerts and monitoring. We have our system set up so that if something happens on our networks or our clients' networks, that these alerts are automatically generated by the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, and it comes to us in some form so that we know how to handle it and can manage that particular problem. Security alerts will let you do that and let you manage what is going to go on so that you can handle problems proactively and they're not an issue that gets out of hand and becomes a really big security thing. That's good. But also compliance management. Now, compliance, that's one of those words that we don't like to have to see because it means work, and it does. But we're seeing that the issue of compliance coming more and more to the forefront in at least three areas. The most common that we think about is that compliance is coming to the forefront with regards to regulations. So if you are under some kind of regulations, and man, there are scans of regulations out there that may affect you. There may be some kind of requirements to demonstrate that you've been following those regulations, that you've been compliant with what's going on. You may have cyber insurance for your organization, and it may be that your cyber insurance wants to show proof that you have been following reasonable cybersecurity standards, and you need to be able to show that in order for them to make a payout on a claim. Compliance management will come into play there. Or it may be that you've got some kind of auditors that come into your organization, and your auditors want to know whether or not you have been compliant. We're actually starting to see this more in clients who have auditors come in, and the auditors, funny thing, for example, we had one set of auditors that came in and wanted to know if that client had done backups 6 months earlier on a holiday weekend, okay? And they wanted proof that they had actually been accomplished. Compliance management lets you handle those kinds of things. So compliance management is going to be more and more important. Likewise, we look at device management. You've got a laptop and you lose it. You don't want somebody picking it up and getting into your data. You've got an employee that loses a cell phone that's got company email or information on it. You need to be able to wipe that cell phone so that data does not get out. That's all done within the device management pieces of the administration consoles. And then a relatively new thing, back in the Microsoft Purview console, is another form of email encryption. Now, there's been email encryption all along within Outlook, and this kind of raises it to a next level within the Microsoft Purview console. So if you've got some kind of regulated entity, or you want to be sure that you maintain security on something, the email encryption services within the admin consoles are really interesting to use. And then there are more things back there besides just the events that we've highlighted. Well, I think you can see that the Microsoft Business Premium is indeed a very full-featured package with a tremendous amount of things beyond just the desktop apps. If you would like some help either implementing that within your organization or would like to contact us just to talk a little bit about what's there, we'd love to chat with you. Phone number, email, there on your screen. And if you would like to see this webinar again, you'll find it up on our YouTube channel. Feel free to do that, as well as the handout that will be coming out shortly, the summary handout about what's included within Microsoft 365. Now, I know that there's been a lot within this particular session this morning, and I don't know if anybody's got any questions. Feel free to type those in. We'd be happy to address those. But as you can see, we are pretty well sold on the Microsoft 365 Business Premium package all the way around. All right, well, I don't see any questions this morning. Like I said, feel free to get in touch with us if there's more that you'd like to talk about. We'd be happy to help you on your journey as you implement Microsoft 365 within your organization and start taking advantage of the many features. Hey, thanks for attending the webinar. We'll see you next month. Bye-bye.